Hey, Chris, how are you doing today?
Michael, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Looks like we froze a little bit.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there we go. Just to catch everybody up that might have watched last week, we're finishing today with our DUI series. Last week we talked about refusal hearings and what those are like. And so now we're going to go through what happens in court. So just to remind everybody too, we're talking about a situation that you've been pulled over for allegedly driving under the influence. You either blew into the breathalyzer or you didn't. If you didn't, you're going to have what's called a refusal hearing, which we talked about last week. And so today, now we're in court. So Chris, can you walk us through a little bit of what happens in a courtroom?
Yes, Michael. I always tell people that the first court appearance in a DWI case is maybe the most important, because it stands that under the laws in New York, action is taken against someone's license at the first court appearance. And if you go to court without a lawyer at the first court appearance and you think that the judge is going to just adjourn it for you so you can go out and retain a lawyer, I've seen far too many instances where the prosecutor and the judge basically decide that they're not going to wait for you to get a lawyer, and they will take action against your license even if you don't have a lawyer. And the action against your license is that unless you're prepared for a hardship hearing, as it's called, in the case where you've taken the breath test, a hardship hearing occurs at the first court appearance. And the hardship hearing addresses the question of whether you are entitled, after your license has been taken from you, whether you are entitled to a hardship license, which is a restricted or a limited license that permits you simply to go back and forth to work, and some very specific other limited exceptions or allowances that you can have with this hardship license. But principally, the hardship license is to allow you simply to go back and forth to work. There are certain judges that require you to have live testimony and require you to have a witness to corroborate or confirm whatever your assertion is as to why you need and are entitled to a hardship license. It's painful to see people walk out of court after they've explained to a judge and a prosecutor that they need more time because they need to hire a lawyer to represent them, and the judge and or the prosecutor decide that they're not going to wait. Some courts have a very etched in stone rule about that, and the person walks out of court with no license because the judge has to take action against your driver's license at the first court appearance on a DWI where you've taken the breath test, and you're not prepared for a hardship hearing. So if you try to winging it is not something that is recommended, because most of the time you end up with a broken wing. You end up with no hardship license, so you can't even get back and forth to work, and you have a prosecutor and or a judge mentioning in court that you should be reminded that you have no license, and suddenly you realize, well, I have a car in the parking lot, I'm being told I have no license, and how do I get out of here? So in those instances where you have entitlement to hardship hearing because you've taken the test, you've gone to court, there's been a certified record of that breath test, and you've blown over 0.08 on that breath test, the court takes action against your license, and whether you're ready or not, the case has now started in court. If you have refused to take that test back at the police barracks or the trooper barracks, you will have your license taken from you at the first court appearance, and you will be scheduled for, well, without any right to a hardship hearing, and you will be scheduled for a refusal hearing, which is, as I've discussed previously, a separate and the court proceedings in whatever the town, village, or city court that you're in, or county court for that matter. And the refusal hearing will be set at the first court appearance. With COVID and the pandemic, DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, has modified their procedures a bit. And so now you have to take action when you are scheduled for or to schedule a refusal hearing at the Department of Motor Vehicles. It requires you to go back to, if you're the lawyer, to go back to your office and to send something to the Department of Motor Vehicles refusal hearing unit so that they schedule you for a refusal hearing. And it's all being done remotely even today, which is August 21. And until further notice, the Department of Motor Vehicles will proceed in that fashion. So you have to take an extra step if you're the lawyer. And if you're not the lawyer, you either get a lawyer that knows how to take that step and schedule the refusal hearing. Otherwise, the case in the court will just sit in limbo for a number of court appearances while you're trying to schedule a refusal hearing for your client, and you're not getting any response from the Department of Motor Vehicles because you either sent it to the wrong place or you didn't follow up in the procedure that's set forth on the notice that you get at the first court appearance that you go to about how to take those steps if you're the lawyer or the client. So the first court appearance in a DWI is very important. It's important that you at least talk to a lawyer before you go to it so that you understand. Most courts will not deal with, especially in the downstate New York area, will not deal with any defendant who is not represented by a lawyer. So whether it's the local public defender or legal aid society, or it's a private retained attorney, the moral of this is that you should at least one of as soon as you apologize for that. But if anybody needs to contact me to discuss any of these types of matters, my number, I believe, will flash across the bottom of the screen. You're welcome to call me 24/7.
Wonderful. So I understand that was like the first court appearance. Can you tell us what happens is there an actual trial that takes place if it gets that far?
There's not an actual trial as people are familiar with that term. There is what's referred to as an evidentiary hearing if you've taken the test and you've blown into the machine and you've blown over 0.08 BAC, blood alcohol content, breath alcohol content. And that evidentiary hearing requires you to be able to submit some proof as to why you're entitled to a hardship license. And so it's not a full-blown trial on the ultimate question of whether you were in fact driving while intoxicated on a specific date at a specific time and location. But it's an important hearing because it can go a long way to establishing your entitlement to some right to drive, even while the case is at your trial, if you will, you'll have it at appearance.
All right, great. So thanks for kind of recap, kind of giving us a summary there. So what we understand, and I know there might be some technical difficulties, so I'll just kind of recap a little bit, is that what we're saying is that in the event in this first very first court appearance is actually one of the most important. And the reason why it's one of the most important is because what Chris was talking about in that, well, the first thing they're going to do is if you refuse, they're going to take away your license. And if you have a job, you drove there, if you live by yourself, you're going to need to be able to drive and do your own thing. And unfortunately, if the judge takes your license away and your car is in the parking lot, what are you going to do? And so you're going to have to make what's called an immediate hardship license, which is going to more or less explain exactly what's going to happen, why you need this license and how you need this license now and moving forward for the time being. And so what we're going to talk about next week for our last of the series is what happens in the actual trial. If you go to like a DUI trial, it's the government has to prove what's going on. So we appreciate your time, Chris, for explaining that, and we look forward to finishing next week. All right. Looks like
a wrap.